Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Guy. This is Guy Talk Sports. Thank you for being here with me. I appreciate the time. Originally, I was going to do a defensive preview video, kind of to go conjunction with my offensive preview video that I did last week. However, there's still a lot of competition. I'm having a hard time figuring out who exactly is going to get the start, especially at nickel, between I think it's Christian Harrison and Boo Carter right now. So they're battling it out. The rest of the defense, I think I've got an idea on who's gonna start. You're gonna get a lot of rotation here and there, but we'll go into that in another video as soon as I guess here in a week or so when I get a better idea of who I think is going to start. I think it's going to be Christian Harrison, but we'll see. Offensively speaking, with my last video, I think that preview still holds pretty strong. I'm pretty confident in every pick that I have on there on who I think is going to start. The one that I might see, I still think it's going to be Miles Kitzelman at tight end getting the start, but Ethan Davis has made a ton of noise in this fall camp. And so do I think he's going to get the start? No, I think Miles Kitzelman's a better blocker, but Ethan Davis has been tearing it up. So I'll give an update on that if I think Ethan Davis is going to end up getting the starting spot, but I don't think so right now. But I digress. Anyway, I thought that today I would go ahead and give my official prediction, my humble opinion on how well I think this 2024 Tennessee football team is going to do this year. At the end, I'm also going to give some camp updates, through fall camp, things that I've heard, seen, as well as a little bit of recruiting at the very end. If you want to jump ahead to any particular spot, just look down below. I'll put timestamps on all the different things in the description box on all the different topics that I'm going to cover, all the different games. So if you want to jump ahead to any spot, you can just click on that. It should take you there. Before we get into anything, though, if you don't mind, look down below your screen. There's a subscribe button. Go ahead, smash that for me. I would really appreciate it. Help me continue to grow this channel. Thank you so much. Let's get into this. I'm excited. All right, so there are some week 0 games happening. I think somebody's playing in Ireland. Is it Florida State? Something like that? I don't know. Anyway, there's an Ireland game in week 0, a couple other games going on. But in week 1, Tennessee is going to play UTC, University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, at home. That's going to be a win. So, although the Mocs are supposed to be one of the best FCS teams in their league, Tennessee's still one of the top FBS programs. They should absolutely still get a big win. They should be able to play a ton of players, work out any kinks ahead of the big game against NC State. That's really all I have for that one. I think you'd like to see the full roster get utilized in this one, get everybody up to speed, especially some of the younger guys, because you're going to have to play some young guys, especially in the secondary. And you're going to have to get everybody experience. It's going to get good experience for Nico. The backups should be able to get in because everybody needs to be with it for the next game. Really, the first... a lot of people are kind of writing this next game off. I think it's going to be a pretty good game. But so the next week on September 7th, Tennessee plays NC State at a neutral site in Charlotte. I have that one in as a win. I have it as a win. I have felt more and more confident about this one as time has went on. I think my initial thoughts were that, it's early. Nico still trying to hit get in the groove, kind of get his sea legs underneath him, right? But I think, I was kind of leaning into that, so I thought it was going to be a really close game. I still think it can be a really good game, but I think Tennessee's offensive line, defensive line, they're really tough up front, and I think they're going to take over. And if nothing else, Tennessee should be able to run the ball. It's going to be an aggressive defense that Tennessee's offense is going against. But like I said, we have a pretty veteran offensive line, and then our defensive line is going to be just scaring their quarterback all night long. And I think ultimately Tennessee gets a big win. It gets an early win. They go 2-0 going into the next week, and that is Kent State on September 14th at home. That's going to be a win, right? Kent State, I think, is ranked right at the bottom of the FBS. I think UTC would probably, I think they very well might beat Kent State if they were playing head-to-head. So that should be another game. Fine-tune it, get Nico a few really good reps, and then get him out and get everybody ready for the next week. Because the next week is going to be Oklahoma, September 21st. It's an away game. This is at Oklahoma, opening up SEC play for Tennessee. I have that as a win. I didn't know. I think this was probably the one game where I was really kind of wavering back and forth on whether I thought Tennessee was going to win or lose. I think Oklahoma is probably going to be favored in this one because it's at Oklahoma. I think either way, it's going to be a really good game. Nico, this is going to be his fourth game, though, in the season. I think he's finally going to start clicking on all cylinders. The offense should be going. And I think one of the biggest things is that Oklahoma had to replace, I think, pretty much everyone on their offensive line. And when you have to go up against, James Pierce, Omari Thomas, Joshua Josephs, who's had a great fall camp, Tennessee probably has the best defensive line in the country, and that's not just me as a Tennessee fan talking. That's just about every single expert that I've seen out there either says Tennessee's the best or they're up there as one of the best. Tennessee has an amazing defensive line this year. Rodney Garner, of course, is probably the best defensive line coach in the country, and I think he has done an amazing job here. And I think Tennessee's defensive line, once again, if nothing else, same with the NC State game. If nothing else, Tennessee's defensive line is going to cause havoc, and Oklahoma, I think, is going to have a hard time controlling that. And so I think ultimately Tennessee ends up getting the win. I think it's going to be a great game. It is one that I really could go either way when I was doing my, just schedule preview, kind of going over each game. Not really picking wins or losses, but I kind of gave this is definitely a toss-up game. But I'm picking Tennessee to win it. Let's look at the next week. It's a bye. It's a bye week. I think it comes at a really good time because I would much rather have I don't know. It's tough to say. I really like having the bye week after Oklahoma. That's going to be a very emotional game for Josh Heupel. The team's probably going to be amped up. And then the next game they were going to play is Arkansas. And so you get 2 weeks to prepare for Arkansas on October 5th. It's away. It's at Arkansas. And I have Tennessee winning that one. I think this game, it's a little bit of a closer call. Like I was saying, if Tennessee doesn't get the bye. But because they get the bye, they get 2 weeks to prepare for Arkansas. I think Arkansas, may end up being better than what some people think. I think, they got the new offensive coordinator there, and we'll see how they go. We'll see how they play this year. I think it is going to be Sam Pittman's last year as head coach. But with 2 weeks to prepare for that, I feel a lot better about that game. I probably would pick them to win if it was the next week anyway, but 2 weeks to prepare. I think Tennessee gets the win. Arkansas has to play at Auburn, and then they have a really tough game against Texas A&M, and then they play Tennessee. And then Tennessee, like I said, gets the 2 weeks to prepare. So I think Tennessee gets the win. Schedule lines up really well for us there. So I think we get the win, and that sends us on into October 12th. And this is a good one, right? This is Florida. This is at home. Possibly Billy Napier's last season as head coach of Florida. If they lose to Tennessee, very well could be. I don't know if that's going to be the final nail in the coffin. I'm saying it's a win. If you look at the last, 15, 20 years, Florida has absolutely dominated us. We've won 2 games in the last however many years. I think it was 2016 with Dobbs, and then in 2022 when we had that 10-2 year. It's a tough one. For whatever, I think Florida has a really good roster. I think they have a much better roster than what a lot of people are giving them credit for. Because I think people saw Florida, being predicted as like a 4-8, a 5-7 team, and so they automatically assume, oh, they have a bad roster. No, they just play one of the toughest schedules in the country. I don't think Billy Napier's a bad coach. I think if they gave him more time, Florida could probably. I think he could get Florida back to winning a lot of games. But that being said, you look at. I think I made this point before. You look at like Tennessee getting Josh Heupel. Immediately we get a lot of success, and other good. Florida is a good program, and obviously they want to replicate that. And so Billy Napier, and however many years he's been there, 3 or 4, hasn't got it done. And they have, like I said, one of the hardest schedules that I think in the country. So they play Miami in week 1, Texas A&M in week 3. And then I think so in week 4 they play Mississippi State. They're probably going to get a win there. But then they play a tough UCF game the week right before they play us. And I guarantee you Gus Malzahn is going to give them everything they want and more. It's going to be a good game. That's going to be a big game. Billy Napier and Florida did not need to lose to UCF because if they do, all of a sudden momentum's not on their side, and they're probably losing to Miami. I think they very well could lose to UCF, and then you got to go to Tennessee. Like I said, Florida's dominated that series, but I do think, if Tennessee plays their game, they don't start just messing up. Tennessee should win this game. Tennessee, it's at home, absolutely should win this game. And I think it's kind of going to be the beginning of the end for Billy Napier if that's not already started. So. I think Tennessee gets the win. And that's a big one. It's Florida. We have not done well against Florida, but I think Tennessee gets the win. And that makes us, if everything goes according to plan, I think that will make us 6-0 going into the third Saturday of October game, Alabama, October 19th. It's at home. I think Alabama has to play Georgia earlier in the year. I do think so. I think Alabama will have a one loss on their resume. I picked this one as a loss. I hope I'm wrong. As a Tennessee fan, I really hope I'm wrong. This one was a really close one for me because I think you're going to have fans going absolutely crazy because everyone remembers that 2022 game and how amazing of a game that was, and how that really propelled Tennessee into just this amazing year by beating Alabama. I think you're looking at 2 really good teams. I think Alabama's going to be humming though, and it's really hard to pick against the Tide in this one. I think when you think about how emotional that Florida game is going to be, if you can get past the Gators. I think Alabama coming in, they're wanting revenge. Last time they were in Knoxville, they got ran out of here. They're going to want this win. Obviously, we're going to want it too, but the grind of the SEC schedule, we've played Oklahoma, we've played Florida, we've played NC State. Alabama comes in. I think that's where we get our first loss. I think, as much as the Tide lost, they brought in a ton of talent, and I think they're going to end up. I think DeBoer has done a really good job down there so far, and I think they're going to end up getting that win once again. As a Tennessee fan, I hope I'm wrong. I hope Tennessee just runs them out of Neyland, and but I think that might be our first loss. So I'm penciling it in as a loss. We shall see. I do think that game. I do think that could be more of a toss-up, and honestly, I think Tennessee's probably going to be favored in that game. You got to sit, at that. You hope to be 6-0. Alabama 5-1. It's in Knoxville. I think Tennessee should be favored. But again, it's going to be a tough game. And I think Alabama ends up getting us in that one. So unfortunately, but like I said, hopefully I'm wrong. So the next game we play is going to be Kentucky. However, once again, our schedule kind of really plays in our favor. We get a bye week. We've played Florida and Alabama in back-to-back weeks. It's tough. Both emotional games, and I think we're gonna be licking our wounds a little bit at Alabama game. Whether we win or lose, we're going to be hurting. That's going to be a tough game. and we get the bye week. And that's so, so important. We're going to get guys rested up because the next game, like I said, is Kentucky 2 weeks later on November 2nd. It's at home, and that's going to be a win. That's going to be a win. Like I said, we get 2 weeks to prep for Kentucky. We have absolutely, as much as Florida's dominated Tennessee, Tennessee has absolutely owned Kentucky. They just have. For whatever reason, the Wildcats cannot get past us. And I think you look at their style of ball, and I think it just pairs really poorly against our style because Tennessee likes to play fast. They like to put up points quick. And then by that time, Kentucky likes to run out the clock and do these 15-play drives. But once you're down 14, it's tough to come back when you play like they do. And so, it's always a tough game for Kentucky. They have, so like I said, so we have 2 weeks. Kentucky has to play games against Florida and Auburn, and then come to Knoxville and play us. And then we're coming off a bye. So once again, kind of like the Arkansas game, we get a break while the other team just gets, decimated through an SEC schedule. Kentucky very well could lose to both Florida and Auburn. And I think they do lose to Auburn. Florida, for some reason, Kentucky's been really good against Florida these last few years. But I mean, they very well could lose to Florida as well, and then have to make a trip to Knoxville. So I think Tennessee continues to own the series. We kind of regain some of that momentum that we had going on. We're 6-1 right now. Based on my predictions, we are 6-1. Kentucky comes in, we get the win, go to 7-1, and that takes us to the next week on November 9th. It's Mississippi State. It's at home. That's a win. I think it's a win. If it was an away game, I think you could argue that it could be a tougher game than what you'd think. It could be one of those trap games. But it being a home game, it's Jeff Lebby's first year as a head coach. I think Jeff Lebby's a good coordinator. I don't know how he's going to be as a head coach. You really never know how the coordinators are going to be when they make that transition to head coach. He's going to be on the road in Knoxville. I think they're looking at a rebuild, and I just don't think they have enough horsepower to keep up with Tennessee. So I think Tennessee gets a huge win and is firmly in contention for a playoff spot at this time. That moves the Vols to 8-1 based on my predictions. And then the next week happens, and the next week is November 16th. We play Georgia, and it's at Georgia. It's an away game, and I feel like I've said this anytime I've talked about the Georgia game. We're going to lose. I think it's a loss. I really don't have a lot to say on that one. Kirby Smart always has an amazing defense. They typically either have a good, really good, or elite offense, and it's just too much. It's going to be on the road. If it was at home, maybe I say we can keep up with them, but they always play us good. I mean, they're a good team. They play everybody good, but boy, that's a tough game. That's a tough game. It's after Kentucky, Mississippi State back to back, and I think Georgia gets us. I think that's going to be our second loss of the year. We go to 8-2, and I don't have too much to say about that game. I honestly, mainly because I'm not looking forward to it. I really think Georgia is going to be once again the best team in college football, and I think, like I said, Kirby Smart does a great job. And I think that's just going to be a loss. So moving on, looking ahead, the next week, November 23rd, it's against UTEP, University of Texas, El Paso. It's at home. It's a win. That's going to be a win. I don't have much to say about that, right? It's UTEP. We're going to get the win. I think we'll probably take out a lot of frustration against UTEP in that game. So I would not want to be them after coming off a loss to Georgia. Get the win. That bumps us to 9-2. We're sitting pretty for the playoff, and that takes us to the last game of the year. It's Vanderbilt, November 30th, and it is an away game, but it's kind of a home away from home for Tennessee, right? And this is going to be a win. It's going to be a win. Like I said, it's home away from home against the Commodores. I think we end up winning big. I think you may even see, it all depends on how we look in the playoffs. Heupel tends to leave starters in a little bit longer than what you would hope to see. But I think we go up big against Vanderbilt and hopefully be able to get our guys out early to rest them, because now these seasons are no longer, if you don't make the championship game, they're no longer 13 games, right? These could be 15, 16. I think if you make it all the way to the national championship, 17 game schedule. I think that's if you play for the SEC championship as well. That's a long season, and guys are going to be tired, and so hopefully we go up big. I think we go up big against them early. I do want to say that my Uncle Johnny, who is a Vanderbilt Commodore fan, very quickly reminded me after my video when I did the schedule preview that Tennessee has not done very well against Vanderbilt in the last 10 to 15 years. And the series has kind of been split. And so it's weird to even think about. But sent me a text saying that Vanderbilt's 5-7 against Tennessee in the last 12 years, which is just, especially as a Tennessee fan, crazy to think of. It kind of blew me away. I didn't realize that it'd been back and forth like that over the last few years. Now I know, here in these last, more recent years, Tennessee's been going up big against Vanderbilt. But I do want to point out, and I appreciate the input, that Vanderbilt didn't just flop over for Tennessee there for a few years. So I need to definitely need to give credit where credit's due. But in this one, I think Tennessee goes up big, goes up early, and I think you see Tennessee come away with a big win and set themselves up nicely for the new expanded college football playoff. I think 10-2 in the SEC is going to be enough to get you there. I think it's going to be enough to get you there. And so, I think 10-2 overall is where a lot of people have them. For a lot, my prediction, as much as I want to be, I want to be different or go against the norm, I feel like this is what most people have Tennessee going, is 10-2 losing to Alabama and Georgia, right? Those are your two hardest games. I think you lose both of them. And so does most of the country. I think, 10-2 is where I'm predicting. I think it's very possible that Tennessee goes 11-1. I think it's possible Tennessee goes 8-4, 9-3. And so, I think it's somewhere between 8-4 and 11-1, and I think it's going to end up being 10-2. But like I said, that's where most people have them. It's super exciting to say 10-2, and hopefully make one of those bottom spots for the college football playoff. That's super exciting. Because just making it to the playoff, if you can make it to the playoff with Tennessee's offense and not a lot of time prepared. If I'm a team, I don't want to have to play Tennessee. I don't want to have to prep for that fast-paced offense. And so it's super exciting. I think we're going to get there. I think we're getting 10-2. That's the official prediction. So that's all I got on that one. But let's move on. Just some quick updates for fall camp. Tennessee. So they had their second scrimmage a few days ago. And I think Nico ended up not playing. I think they said he had like a stomach bug or something like that. Nothing concerning. Heard a lot of good stuff from Deshaun Bishop. That every single time when asked about who's showing out, it's Deshaun Bishop. I think he's done a really good job. Had a really good camp. Other guys, I've heard Dante Thornton's name thrown around after the last scrimmage. Apparently, he had a really good scrimmage. I think he caught like a 60-yard bomb for a touchdown. I think he was sidelined there at the beginning of fall camp, so he didn't get a lot of time to kind of show off. And I think a lot of people kind of have written him off some, but I think he's going to end up being. I think I said this in the offensive preview. It's going to be Brew. It's going to be Squirrel. It's going to be Chris Brazzell, and I think Dante Thornton is your next guy out. I think he's your number 4 wide receiver, and I think he apparently had a really good scrimmage. I think he's going to end up being. I think he's going to be Brew. It's going to be Squirrel. It's going to be Chris Brazzell, and I think Dante Thornton is your next guy out. I think he's your number 4 wide receiver. And I think he apparently had a really good scrimmage. So far, other than the one injury on defense, I think it was Jordan Thomas. It seems like everybody so far is relatively healthy. Hopefully, we stay that way. I think from what I've heard, the scrimmage is more of a thud, rather than kind of tackling. And so I think they're trying to just get everybody to the starting point before people start going down with injuries. Biggest thing, like I said at the beginning of the video, is nickelback, not the band, but the position. I guess it's to say it's the star position in this defense. I think Christian Harrison right now is getting a majority of first team reps. And I think a lot of people, when Jordan Thomas went down, thought it was going to be Boo Carter to step in. But I think, with this staff, they really like the older guys playing in the secondary. And although Christian Harrison's not a lot older, I think he tends to be in position more from what I've heard. Right? It really is more of an assumption. I don't know why you wouldn't have Boo Carter in there otherwise, because I think Boo Carter is a more talented player. But right now, Christian Harrison's getting the majority of the first team snaps from right here. So, like I said, I'll do a defensive preview video in the coming week or two to kind of, figure out who I think is going to end up starting. But right now, Christian Harrison looks like he's going to get the nod. Defensive line, I have heard time and time again, is just amazing. I think, I was talking about it earlier, I think we have the best defensive line in the country. Rodney Garner's done an amazing job. They're going to be tough to handle. Defensive line's going to be really tough to handle. And then lastly, I think it was on a Go Vols 24/7 podcast. I'm pretty sure about that. I think they were talking about how Satterwhite is really getting a lot of the backup snaps for center. I think I was in the offensive preview, I talked about Umarov, I think, being the backup there. But from what I hear, Satterwhite's done a decent job, and I think they're going to give him the backup spot if Cooper ever has to leave the field. May he never, though. Last thing I wanted to touch on, right? Recruiting. Tennessee has been on an absolute tear in recruiting over the summer. They have just been ridiculous amount of players committing to Tennessee right now. I think the only team that's been hotter this summer is Auburn. And both teams right now. I think with our most recent commit, I think we're number 6. I think Auburn's 5th. So both teams have had a really good summer. And Tennessee yesterday on Saturday, August 17th, landed a huge 5-star recruit in David Sanders. He's an offensive tackle. John Campbell, who's our right tackle, I believe I don't think he has any more eligibility after this season. So I think he goes on to the NFL. You need somebody to step in, and from what I hear, I think David Sanders plans on going in as a freshman, starting at an offensive tackle position. He's that good. From what I've seen, he's the best. I think he's the highest rated recruit since Eric Berry. I think something like that. As far as overall, I know Nico was an amazing recruit and all that, but that's the kind of company that David Sanders is in. And so it's a huge commit, big time pickup for Tennessee, and they just continue to be on a tear in recruiting. So it's a big time get for the Vols. Super exciting because he's going to be on the offensive line for these next few years, starting for us. He's going to be All-American type guy from everything I've seen. So I think that's it for this one. That was a good video. Yeah. 10-2 is where I think we're going to end up being. That's all I got. I'm excited. We're only, I think, 2 weeks away from football starting in Tennessee. So it is quickly getting here, and I'm super excited. I hope you're excited. I'm excited. That's all I got for this one. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. If you don't mind, hit the like button for me. It really helps me out. Drop a comment down below. What is your prediction for this 2024 season for the Tennessee Vols? I'm curious to see what everybody else has. I'm at 10-2. Maybe the closer we get to the season, maybe I bump that up to 11-1. But right now, I'm sitting at 10-2. I think that's where I want to stay at. Be sure, as I said at the beginning, hit that subscribe button for me. Help me continue to grow this channel. I really do appreciate it. And lastly, tell somebody about it. Tell somebody about the channel. shake somebody's hand, go up to somebody and say, hey, did you see Guy Talk Sports? What's Guy Talk Sports? Oh, he talks about Tennessee football. No kidding. Any other sports? Yeah, baseball, basketball, really anything Tennessee sports related. Tell them about it. It really helps me out. That's the way to grow this channel. I really do appreciate it. Thank you all so much for everything. I really do appreciate it. And go Vols. We'll see you next time.